here we go. This is actually not everything I was expecting, but it looks like there's something a bit lost in the post office. I don't know what to do about that at the moment, and to be honest, I just want to get stuff done. This would be the third Urotsukidoji Hentai thingy-majig. Looks like it's kind of safe-ish on the back. So, making progress to finishing that off. And then we got today's supposedly barely packed package. Should maybe be 8 things in here. This looks like it could be 8 things. 2, 4, 6, 8. Let's begin with the non-anime thing in here. Sorry. We got season 2 of My Little Pony: Friendship is Magic. Good. Put that aside. Let's start figuring out these anime releases. Order them however I'm going to do this. Let's begin with One Piece Season 4 Voyage 5. And I guess we'll open it in the off chance there's anything on the inside that's particularly worth looking at. But these have been pretty much more bare bones artwork on the inside, which I think is preferable to... Huh. Wow, so that's something. Again, the standard. Okay. Yeah, pretty much the standard Season 4 packaging. But I do believe this should end Season 4, and Season 5 is already on the horizon. We got Pokemon Black and White Set 4. And maybe I heard that this is the end of the first Pokemon Black and White season. I don't actually know for certain. I just think I heard that somewhere. And I think I already have that movie. I do not have that because that's the manga. So we've got Zorua, and the dark cat I can't remember the name of. Let's turn One Piece. We got Kampfer for Die Liebe. Unless that's for Die Liebe. I don't know, I can't pronounce it either way. In my defense, I can barely pronounce English, and that's my primary language. Maybe that's something else about it. Enunciation issues. I don't know. Fairly bare bones. Not too unexpected. Contains both OVA episodes. Subtitled only. Next up, we've got Tiger and Bunny Set 2. I really should have watched Set 1 by now to comment on it, but I haven't. Then again, I guess the same could be said for Kampfer. So let's open both the DVD and the Blu-ray version so that we can compare and contrast. So we got 2 discs, and disc 2 looks very different from the first disc. And then the Blu-ray's actually the same. Interesting. Last but not least, we have the DVD and Blu-ray versions of Colorful, which as a Sentai release means that this one's actually dubbed. I do not know what this is about, and honestly, it is very confusing because of the other anime named Colorful, which is actually pretty much just about guys trying to take a look at panty shots for a bunch of episodes. Which, despite how it sounds, actually has some rather brilliant moments in it. Followed by a bunch of, I guess that was kind of amusing moments. And so, Colorful Just the disc with the same artwork as the front. Both the DVD and Blu-ray versions. Nice and simple. Why don't we go ahead and add both of these since Friendship is Magic is here. And this would be my anime DVD update for the week. I was kind of hoping it would be a little bit bigger because I did have something expensive coming and it looked like it got lost in the mail maybe. Or just got delayed at the local post office from what the tracking said. And I'll figure that out. For now, we'll go over here. And first of all, I have to apologize for forgetting that it was anime DVD collection update night, so I'm not wearing an anime shirt. Fortunately, it's a good shirt to be wearing for it. But anime I watched, there was a fairly wide variety. I was working from home due to car problems, but didn't get a whole lot of anime watching done because, honestly, it's very distracting to watch while trying to work, so I was able to not do that. And I had a really complicated weekend, blah, 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 but I think I still got decent stuff in. With Charles from the DVD Collection subreddit and JFS, who's also from that subreddit but came through there from YouTube, we watched the first 6 episodes of the Marvel Iron Man anime. And it was actually surprisingly watchable given how badly it's rated. I think part of it is we went into it knowing it was kind of badly rated and kind of prepared for it. I mean, watching it, it is kind of cringe-worthy, but since we expected it, I think we were able to just kind of enjoy it for the absurdity that it was. Not exactly laughing at it, but just kind of saying, yeah, I think they just took a bunch of words and threw them together to try and sound smart for that line. And the other thing is, of course, you watch the Iron Man Marvel anime, and the very first thing you miss is Robert Downey Jr., who did a really spectacular job of playing a really charismatic individual in the Iron Man movies, and of course the Avenger movie. So we're halfway through that. I still don't know why people were puking blue. That doesn't make sense, but let's see. After that, well, let's see. I also watched the second Case Closed movie, and I think I talked about it a couple of weeks ago, watching the first one. If I didn't, that first one was definitely really good. Second one, maybe not as good, but definitely a good. It would rank there as a good episode, if it were an episode as opposed to a movie. If I were to try and explain why, it's because it was a lot more of a follow the Clue movie and less a feeling like maybe the characters were almost out of their element. Whereas the first movie kind of felt like it kept the characters on their toes a bit. I mean, this one kind of began like it could have been like that, but I don't know. This one would be the 14th target, and then it was fun to rewatch still. Now, putting that aside, for my own personal watching tastes, I kind of decided I was either going to watch the 3rd season of Shakugan no Shana, and I have to admit that part of doing that I wanted to figure out what all was on all DVDs, and oh my god, it was actually it was really confusing, mostly because of Shanaton, the extra stuff on there, and trying to figure out what the hell that is and what is available, because as far as I can tell, and this information seems to differ from place to place, but some places seem to be including the Hot Spring OVA episode as an episode of Shanaton, even though it isn't, although really they're not including it as Shanaton so much as Shanaton is included as in a listing of specials for the thing. And then there's there's 3 episodes of Shanaton that apparently aren't out on DVD as far as I can tell. Those would be one involving that person whose name I can't remember. As if I can remember any names from Shakugan no Shana, because they have such simple but fancy names. but it's that ultimate throne person. Let's see. It sounded like there was one that was a preview for a second season at the same time. Advertisement on why a certain character was not in the Shakugan no Shana movie. And then there was one that was maybe attached to the movie itself that I don't know. And whether or not it just seems like there's different ways that everything counts everything. So it was really confusing going through that and trying to decide how I wanted to do it, and finally deciding, okay, everything that's Shanaton, I'm basically going to call Shanaton, and I'm going to number them 1 through 15 and just skip 3 through 5 as not available, and then I can figure it out later when I want to mark whatever it is that I have watched. Really confusing. But it turns out I didn't watch that. Instead, it came down to the 2 other things I'd selected, which were either Place to Place or Hiyako. And I watched the first episode of Place to Place first, and then I watched the first episode of Hiyako, and from there I decided to continue watching Hiyako. Which is kind of interesting, because Place to Place is rated slightly higher, and maybe Place to Place gets more interesting, or it would be something that would interest me more if I went a little bit further. But it did give me thoughts as to kind of past feelings I've had about series such as A Channel versus Lucky Star, Panty Pony Dash versus Azumanga Daioh. And that would be that the reason I kind of enjoyed Place to Place but didn't find it as enjoyable to continue watching as Hiyako is probably because I felt like, I think I commented this on A Channel specifically, it felt like somebody had decided what the characters were in advance, and that's what they were, as opposed to these people that we were introduced to that we kind of were convinced could be potential real people, and then their habits were introduced. And in the case of Place to Place, this is really an example with the eccentric improves things girl, where I guess we haven't really been given an expectation to think of her as normal so much as she's just thrown on there as a caricature. And I'm seeing instead these interactions of caricatures instead of these interactions of people, and I'm realizing that there's this huge disconnect right there. Whereas with Hiyako, it doesn't begin showing us the eccentricness of the characters until we've pretty much been introduced to them. And we know, like, the main character is a bit eccentric, but it's not an eccentricness that we don't think could actually exist. And this is interesting because the description of Hiyako would almost make you think that it is more extreme in its representation of caricatures than Place to Place, because how many characters do you know that can do absolutely anything and everything, including building a robot version of themselves in the classroom? But the anime plays it off in a much more realistic and understandable way, but just in a very endearing way at the same time. So I kind of feel like the characters from Hiyako could almost really exist. Even if they do represent some very extreme caricatures, they do a really good job of introducing us to them as humans first, so to speak. Now I have to watch more Place to Place to see if it does that. And it's probably going to be like A Channel, where it's just like, even though it is like that, it doesn't really do anything to really make me not care about watching it. Whereas Hiyako, I could understand how some people could be not as interested in that humor. I mean, one of my favorite episodes, or rather half episodes, the second half of an episode in particular, was where one character's just going from place to place, not saying anything, and everybody just keeps giving her food to snack on. And it does this for like 10 minutes, and that for some reason I just found that to be really hilarious. But at the same time, I can understand the fact that that seems like maybe particular humor, right? So now it would be interesting to rewatch Lucky Star and to see if this is actually the case, but I can't help but remember that the first episode of Lucky Star is about eating food, which is pretty much something we all do. And characters asking questions about, yeah, which end do you eat this food from? So it's very human and relatable, Lucky Star is at the beginning, whereas Place to Place, I'm not sure if it was, so much as we were just thrown into these caricatures interacting, maybe? Only continuing to watch Will Tell, and I intend to finish Hiyako before then. I'm 10 episodes into Hiyako. I've got 3 more episodes, and the OVA is not available on DVD, so I'm not going to watch that. And that might happen tonight, because it's a fun watch. Let's see. Other than that, there's not really a whole lot of stuff I've watched. Obviously, the package I'm talking about incoming is more Urotsukidoji stuff. Although the things I have, that pretty much means only 2 things are missing. It should be clear that since I bought last week the movie version of the second one, the edited movie version of the second one, that this means that I'm aware of the fact that there's the Perfect Collection, which has the individual episodes in their unedited format, and that's Japanese with English subtitles, and that's also high priority. But there's also the 4th one, which I've acquired, and that one I understand that one not arriving today, because technically I only won that auction on the weekend, and in reality it wasn't just the 4th one, so there's a bit of an overlap there in what I've purchased and what will arrive just to complete it. But I think that's okay, because I'm trying to play that safe. Sort of like the entire dealing with the car thing, but one of my favorite ways of thinking of it is that cars know when your bank account's starting to feel happy, because then you get a car problem that costs the exact amount of money as you had in your bank account. I don't know how many times I've had that happen. Let's see. Any other big things? I can't even remember what else is coming out this week. All I know is I've got to be wary about next month with this car stuff going on, because next month is the Tengen Toppa Gurren Lagann Blu-ray release, and that's pretty expensive. And it sounds like the value of the yen, maybe it has fallen a bit more in relation to the dollar, which might mean that I probably could have saved a lot of money by importing through Amazon Japan, maybe. But that's okay. I'm never about getting the best price. I'm always just about making sure I definitely get it. So, there's that. And then, of course, the shout out to all the people watching me from the DV Collection chat room. A Way Out, Beeve, Charles, Disposable, Fat Kid for Life, and Tyler Ward. Yo. And y'all, have a nice week.